If you are anything like me, you think career ladders are a trap. Because most people go about professional growth in the completely wrong way. They chase promotions because everyone else does. We construct hollow meaning out of corporate status games, but they don't meet the requirements for genuine transformation, which runs much deeper than convincing yourself you are going to network more or build your personal brand this quarter. If you are one of these people, I am not here to judge you. Though my writing can sound cynical, I've abandoned more career paths than I've mastered. I think that should be the norm. But the fact that people attempt professional pivots and fail almost every time remains true. However, as much as I think traditional career planning is broken, it is always wise to examine the work you tolerate, so you can launch yourself towards something genuinely fulfilling, as we will explore. So whether you want to escape corporate stagnation, build a creative practice, or take the risk toward meaningful work without burning out in 3 months, I want to share 7 frameworks you probably haven't encountered before on professional evolution, creative psychology, and sustainable mastery, so you can do exactly that in 2026. This will be comprehensive. This isn't one of those articles you skim and forget. This is something you'll want to save, annotate, and return to when you feel stuck. The protocol at the end to excavate your professional truth and architect your next chapter will take about a full weekend to complete, with effects that reshape how you approach work for years. Let's begin. You aren't doing the work you want because you aren't the person who would do it when it comes to career transitions. People tend to focus on one of 2 requirements for success: changing your tactics to make progress toward the goal, least important. Second order, changing who you are, so that your professional behavior naturally follows, most important. First order, most people set a surface level objective, hype themselves up to hustle for the first month, then revert to their old patterns without much resistance, because they were trying to build a meaningful career on a rotting foundation. If this doesn't resonate, consider an example. Think of someone masterful at their craft. It could be a surgeon who operates with fluid precision, a writer who publishes consistently without writer's block, or a craftsperson who loses themselves in their workshop for hours. Do you think the surgeon has to motivate themselves to study cases? Does the writer need discipline to sit at their desk? To outsiders, it may appear that way, but the truth is they cannot imagine operating any other way. The surgeon finds it effortful to ignore medical journals. The writer feels uncomfortable not writing, and that discomfort persists until they return to their practice. To some, my own professional rhythm seems obsessive. To me, it is simply how I exist. When colleagues suggest I should unplug and set boundaries, I resist explaining that if my work weren't inherently satisfying, I wouldn't have structured my entire life around it. This next sentence may sound obvious, but it is baffling how many professionals miss it. If you want a specific professional outcome, you must embody the identity that creates that outcome long before you achieve external success. If someone says they want to become a thought leader, I often don't believe them. Not because I doubt their capability, but because they frequently say, "I can't wait until I am established, so I can stop creating content." I hate to break it to you, but if you don't adopt the practice that led to recognition as a permanent way of being and find intrinsic rewards stronger than the external validation you are chasing, then you will abandon the effort the moment recognition fades. You'll have wasted the one resource you cannot recover: your creative energy. When you genuinely transform your professional identity, all activities that don't align with your craft become repulsive, because you possess profound awareness of what kind of career those actions compound into. You tolerate your current professional dissatisfaction because you haven't fully confronted what it represents or where it leads. We'll address how to surface this awareness, but we must build toward it. You claim you want change. You claim you want to do meaningful work and build something of my own. But your calendar shows otherwise for a reason, and that reason runs much deeper than you assume. You aren't doing the work you want because you don't actually want it. Trust only movement. Life happens at the level of events, not of words. Trust movement. Alfred Adler. If you want to transform your professional identity, you must understand how creative psychology operates so you can begin rewiring it. The first step is recognizing that all professional behavior is goal-oriented. It is teleological. This seems obvious, but when we examine it closely, most people resist the implications. You attend the meeting because you want to maintain employment. You check email because you want to feel responsively important. These are clear, but most professional goals remain unconscious. You may not realize that when you procrastinate on your portfolio, you are actually pursuing the goal of avoiding rejection. On a deeper unconscious level, you pursue professional goals that undermine you, but you rationalize them in socially acceptable ways that protect your ego. As an example, if you can't start your side project, you may blame it on poor time management. But in reality, you are pursuing a goal as you always are. In this case, that goal might be preserving your fantasy of potential success without risking actual failure. If you claim you want to leave your unfulfilling role, but remain for years, you may conclude you lack courage or were never entrepreneurial. But the truth is, you are pursuing the goal of psychological safety, predictable income, and maintaining others' perception of you as responsible. The lesson: genuine professional transformation requires changing your goals. I don't mean setting superficial objectives, because that act itself serves an unconscious goal that is actually harming you. That pattern has been exhausted in the career advice space. I mean shifting your fundamental orientation, because that is what a goal is. A projection into the future that functions as a perceptual lens, allowing you to notice opportunities, connections, and resources that serve that goal. Now, let's go deeper, because without understanding this, escape becomes increasingly difficult. Look around this room. Look at the faces. We're all here. We have the jobs, maybe even the titles, but so many of us, we're not doing the work we truly want to do. And we've all felt that quiet ache, that whisper. Why, here's the hard truth straight from Maxwell Maltz, the man who wrote Psycho-Cybernetics. He put it like this: the important thing for you to remember is that it does not matter in the least how you got the idea or where it came from. If you are firmly convinced that idea is true, it has the same power over you as the hypnotist's words have over the hypnotized subject. Let me say that again. If you're convinced an idea is true, it controls you, like a hypnotist. Now, follow me. This is how you became the professional you are today. And it's the exact same loop that will build who you'll be tomorrow. This is the invisible anatomy of your professional identity. First, you adopt a goal. I want to be a manager. I want to be a safe, reliable engineer. Then, you start seeing the world through that single lens. You only notice the opportunities that seem to fit that goal. This is key. Your brain, on autopilot, starts filtering everything. It only lets in what it deems relevant information. I'm talking about selective attention here. It tunes out everything else. You act. You get a little feedback. A good job, a promotion, a paycheck. It confirms you're on the right path. You repeat it again and again until it's automatic. It's a habit. And then the silent shift happens. That behavior, that role, seeps into your bones. It becomes your self-concept. You start saying, well, I'm the kind of person who, I'm a corporate guy. I'm not a creative. I'm not a leader. Finally, you defend it. You defend that identity to stay psychologically consistent, to feel safe. And then that hardened identity, it shapes your next goal. And the loop starts again. And if that identity is too small for you, if it's limiting, this loop doesn't build you up. It becomes professionally catastrophic. The tragedy. The only place to break this is between step 6 and 7. Between this is who I am, and I must defend it at all costs. But friends, this process didn't start last year. It started in childhood. Your first goal wasn't VP of marketing. It was survival, belonging. You were dependent on systems, your family, school, that first boss, to teach you how to succeed. And to succeed, you had to conform. These systems teach through reward and punishment. So unless you adopted their definition of success, you faced consequences. You didn't question. You couldn't see through it. And your mentors, your bosses, they went through the exact same conditioning. That's where the danger lives. Unless they consciously broke the pattern themselves, they were conditioned by industrial-age ideas of security, the pension, the gold watch. They carry both priceless wisdom and invisible, limiting beliefs from their own professional lineage. Here's where we are now, once you satisfy basic survival, and let's be real. Modern work culture makes that relatively achievable. You stop surviving on just food and shelter. You start surviving on the conceptual level. You're not protecting your physical body anymore. You are protecting your professional worldview. Just witness the ideological battles on LinkedIn. People aren't defending ideas there. They are defending their identities. It's a war of self-concept. When your livelihood is threatened, you get fight or flight. Your heart races. When your professional identity is threatened, the same biology kicks in, the same stress. If you're welded to the identity of the corporate professional, you will feel personally attacked when someone questions the 9 to -5. You'll have a physiological reaction. You'll lash out as if you were assaulted. And because most of us don't stop to ask, is this reaction based on truth? Or is it based on a hypnosis I agreed to years ago? We stay trapped in echo chambers, doubling down on career choices that deep down are slowly diminishing our aliveness. If you were raised in academia and never questioned it, you'll attack alternative paths, not because they're wrong, but because they threaten your psychological safety. This same deadly dynamic is what happens when you unconsciously see yourself as not creative, or not technical, or not leadership material. These aren't facts. They are identities you adopted, and they prevent you from taking the very actions your meaningful work requires. So I'll leave you with Maltz's question, the one we started with. What idea have you been convinced is true? What hypnotist's words are you still obeying? And knowing, now that the loop begins between who I am and what I must defend, what will you choose to stop defending? The work you want lies within a specific level of professional consciousness. Have you ever felt stuck? Like you are doing everything right, showing up, working hard, but you still can't shake the feeling that this isn't really what you are meant to be doing? If so, you're not alone. And it's not just about finding a new job title or a higher salary. Often the work we truly want lies hidden within a specific level of professional consciousness. Think of your career mindset as something that evolves. It moves through predictable stages over time. When you first enter the workforce, you're like a sponge. You absorb whatever definition of success your environment hands you, whatever makes you feel safe. But if you aren't careful, that mindset can harden. It crystallizes. And suddenly, fulfilling work becomes impossible. I've studied models like Keegan's stages of adult development, career construction theory, and professional identity research. I've boiled them down into a framework we can all observe in any workplace. This is the professional consciousness model, broken down into 7 distinct stages. Let's walk through them. Phase 1. The foundation stage 1. Survival at this level. Work is purely transactional. It's a simple exchange. Your time for money to meet basic needs. Thinking is black and white. There are only good jobs and bad jobs, defined solely by the paycheck. Stage 2. Security. The world starts to feel dangerous, unpredictable. So you learn to protect your position. You hide mistakes. You say what the boss wants to hear. Stability becomes the only thing that matters. Phase 2. The structure. Stage 3. Conformist. Now, you are your role. The expectations of your job feel like reality itself. You genuinely cannot understand why anyone would turn down a promotion or reject traditional markers of success. Stage 4. Self-authoring. Here is where the shift begins. You start to notice a disconnect. Your inner desires don't match your external path. You realize you've been performing a role you never actually chose. The problem, you haven't built an alternative yet. Phase 3. The strategy. Stage 5. Strategic. This is where agency returns. You construct your own professional philosophy and hold yourself accountable to it. Maybe you leave the industry after careful analysis. Maybe you design a portfolio career based on your actual strengths and values. Stage 6. Integrative. You look back at your philosophy and realize it was shaped by context. You hold it more lightly. You see that your ambition was often about proving your worth to authority figures, or that your practical choices were actually fear disguised as responsibility. Phase 4. The Transcendence. Stage 7. Generative. You work with systems, while being aware of your participation in them. You mentor others while questioning your own blind spots. You build organizations knowing your perspective is partial and evolving. Stage 8. Transcendent. All frameworks become tools, not truths. You hold titles and achievements lightly. You watch yourself play the role of founder or expert with gentle detachment. Stage 9. Unified. Finally, the separation dissolves. There is no longer work and life. Professional activity, rest, and play become one continuous expression of presence. There is no one who needs to succeed. There is only authentic engagement with what emerges. Now, where you right now, most of us oscillate somewhere between stages 4 and 7. That's a massive range if you're near stage 7. You might be listening to refine your understanding or help others. If you're near stage 4, you likely feel that urgent need for change. You sense you're capable of more, but you can't quite articulate what's wrong, because so many forces are operating at once. But here is the encouraging truth. Regardless of where you are today, progression follows a pattern. You aren't broken. You are simply evolving. And by understanding these stages, you can navigate your career with intention, moving from survival to unity. Professional intelligence is the ability to create work that fits you. There is a quote by Naval Ravikant that I love. He says, "The only real test of intelligence is if you get what you want out of life." Powerful, right? Because when it comes to your career, fulfillment isn't just about luck. It's not just about who you know. There is actually a formula, and it has 3 distinct components: agency, opportunity, professional intelligence. Let's break this down. If you have high agency but low opportunity, you'll act persistently toward goals that ultimately yield little satisfaction. You're running fast, but you're on the wrong track. If you have high opportunity and high agency, but low professional intelligence, you'll fail to recognize the work that actually fits you. You'll be handed the golden ticket, but you won't know how to use it. We've talked about agency, and regarding opportunity. Well, I can't magically relocate you geographically, but if you look around in today's economy and still don't see the abundance of possibilities, the remote work, the creator economy, the fractional roles, the portfolio careers, then honestly, I don't know what to tell you. So today, let's focus on the third component, professional intelligence. To understand this, we need to look at ecological psychology. This field studies how organisms adapt to their environments through perception and action. It shows us how we afford certain possibilities based on our capabilities and our goals. Simply put, professional intelligence is your ability to perceive what work environments actually offer you and what you offer them. It works like this. You have professional goals. You act toward them. You sense the environment's response. You compare that response to your goals, and you adapt based on that feedback. You judge professional intelligence by someone's ability to iterate, to persist through uncertainty, and to read contextual signals. Think about it. Who do you know? Is there the professional who constantly misreads the culture and fails to adapt? Or the freelancer who senses market shifts instantly and pivots their offerings? Or the leader who perceives team dynamics and adjusts their communication on the fly? What does this have to do with finding fulfilling work? Everything. Acting, sensing, comparing, and understanding professional systems from a meta perspective. That is fundamental to having high professional intelligence. High professional intelligence means you can run career experiments without being catastrophically attached to any single outcome. You treat your career like a scientist treats a lab. The mark of low professional intelligence. Repeating the same dissatisfaction across different roles and organizations. Getting stuck in the problem rather than solving it. Hitting friction and quitting without learning. I think of the marketer who blames toxic workplaces for 3 consecutive job losses without ever examining their own patterns. To believe you bear no responsibility is verifiably false. That is low professional intelligence. High professional intelligence recognizes that any career puzzle can be solved with enough experimentation. The reality is, you can architect professional circumstances that fit you. It means recognizing there is a sequence of choices leading to work that energizes you rather than depletes you. You understand that professional development is non-linear. You can't leap from entry level to mastery without going through the messy middle. Even if your ideal role seems impossible now, you trust that skills, networks, and opportunities emerge through engagement. Now, when I say goals, I'm not talking about standard career planning, though that has its place. I'm talking about teleology, the idea that everything serves a purpose within a larger whole. Your professional goals determine what opportunities you even perceive. They determine what you consider success or failure. You can try to find your passion, but if you pursue goals that are misaligned with your nature, you will never find it. Think of your professional consciousness as the operating system for your career. And that system, it runs on goals for most professionals. Those goals are assigned, programmed into them like code through education, family expectations, and early work experiences. Get the degree. Secure the benefits, climb the ladder, retire securely. It's a known path. And sadly, it leads to widespread professional despair. So, to develop your professional intelligence, you must reject the default career scripts. Explore unknown professional territories. Set goals that expand your consciousness. Embrace uncertainty as fuel for growth. Study how work actually functions across contexts. Become a generalist who understands the patterns. This might not sound like traditional career advice, but this sequence creates extraordinary professional adaptability, the kind of resilience we recognize in people who thrive, regardless of circumstance. Pair that intelligence with true agency, and you've built an unshakable foundation. Which leads us perfectly to our next section. Let's talk about your best career moves. When did they happen? For most of us, they came after we hit a wall, after we got so frustrated with our current path that we were forced to change. So, how do you dig deep and find your professional truth? How do you see past the conditioning of your industry? And how do you reach insights that actually shift your direction? It starts with questioning. I know, it sounds simple, but genuine career thinking is rare. Most people are too busy executing to stop and ask why. That's why I want to give you a protocol. Use this once a year to reset your trajectory. We're going to ask the big questions. First, we need to create a new mental frame for your career. Think of it like growing a new shell. You leave the old one behind and stretch into the new one. It won't feel comfortable at first. That is actually a positive sign. Block out fei hours. First thing Saturday morning. No distractions. Just you, a notebook, and a pen. Do not outsource this to AI. Push past your mind's usual limits. If answers don't emerge immediately, sit with them. Answer these questions. What is the persistent professional dissatisfaction you have normalized? We are not talking about acute misery, but what you have learned to tolerate. If you do not genuinely despise it, you will continue tolerating it. What professional complaints do you repeat without changing? List the 3 you have voiced most frequently in the past year. For each complaint, consider this. What would someone observing your behavior conclude you actually want professionally? Look at what you do, not just what you say. What truth about your current professional life would be unbearable to admit to someone you deeply respect? These questions are designed to surface professional pain. Now we convert that pain into an anti-vision. This is your brutal clarity about the professional life you refuse to continue. It channels negative energy toward positive action. If absolutely nothing changes for 5 years, describe an average workday. Tell me where you work. Describe how your body feels. What is your first thought? Who surrounds you? What fills your hours? How do you feel returning home? Now extend this to 10 years. What opportunities have closed? What skills have withered away? Who stopped believing in you? What do colleagues say when you are not present? You are at the end of your career. You chose the safe path. You never questioned the script. What was the cost? What professional experiences did you deny yourself? What did you never become? Who in your professional life already lives this future? Find someone who is 5, 10, or 20 years ahead on your current trajectory. What do you feel when you imagine becoming them to change? What professional identity must you abandon? I mean the story you tell yourself like, I am the kind of person who what social costs come. With no longer being that person. What is the most embarrassing reason you have not changed? The one that makes you sound fearful, lazy, or insecure rather than reasonable. If your current professional behavior protects you, what specifically are you protecting? And what does that protection cost you? If you answered truthfully, and if you are in the right professional chapter, you will feel profound unease and possibly disgust toward your current trajectory. Now, let us channel that energy positively. Let us create a minimum viable professional vision. Remember, your vision is like a product. It begins unclear but strengthens through iteration. Forget practicality for a moment. If you could instantly inhabit a different professional life in 3 years, not what is realistic, but what you genuinely want. What does an average workday look like? Use the same level of detail as before. What would you need to believe about yourself for that life to feel natural rather than forced? Write the identity statement. Say, I am the kind of professional who, what is one action you would take this week if you were already that person? Answer these first thing Saturday morning. Alright, so you've done the deep dive on Saturday morning, but here's the truth, that insight won't stick if you just go back to your normal routine. Real change happens when you interrupt your autopilot. You can't think your way out of a pattern while you are still running it. So throughout the rest of this weekend, I want you to stay in the game. Don't just go through the motions. Actually contemplate what you discovered earlier. Set some phone alarms right now, or calendar events. Make them random, but make them land during transitions. Like when you are walking, commuting, or sitting down to eat. When that alarm goes off, stop whatever you are doing and engage with the question. Don't let your brain slide by with an easy answer. Here are the prompts you need to ask yourself. When you feel yourself avoiding something uncomfortable, ask, what am I avoiding professionally by doing what I am doing? When you're feeling busy or distracted, ask if someone filmed my last 2 hours. What would they conclude I really want from my career? When you're feeling lost, ask, am I moving toward the professional life I hate, or the one I actually want? When you're making excuses, ask, what is the most important professional thing I am pretending isn't important? When you're clinging to your identity, ask, what did I do yesterday out of fear of losing who I am, rather than genuine interest? When you're tired, ask, when did I feel most professionally alive yesterday? When did I feel most dead? When you're worried about what people think, ask what would change if I stopped needing my colleagues to see me as that specific identity you wrote down. When you're playing it safe, ask, where am I trading my professional aliveness for a false sense of security? Before you go to sleep, ask, what is the smallest version of the professional I want to become that I could actually be tomorrow? These aren't just questions, they are little bombs you are planting in your day to blow up your old patterns. Use them. Okay, we've made it to Sunday evening. If you've been honest with yourself all weekend, you're probably sitting on at least one insight that could genuinely change your trajectory. Now, we don't let this slip away. We're going to make it explicit. We're going to integrate it, and then we act. So after everything you've unpacked, what feels most true right now about why you've been stuck? I want you to name the actual obstacle. Look past the economy. Look past your boss. What internal belief or pattern has been running the show? Take a second and write down one sentence. What is the professional life you absolutely refuse to let happen? This is your anti-vision. It should hit you in the gut when you read it. Next, write down what you are actually building toward, even if it's still fuzzy. This is your minimum viable vision. It's okay if it evolves. We just need a direction. Now, let's talk goals, but not in the traditional sense. Forget SMART goals for achievement's sake. Think of goals as perceptual lenses. They're just frameworks to help you get into the right headspace. They help you take action that moves you away from that anti-vision. Don't get hung up on finish lines. They don't really exist in meaningful work. The satisfaction is in the practice. I want you to set 3 lenses. First, the 1-year lens. What has to be true in a year for you to know you've broken the old pattern? Give me one concrete indicator second. The 1-month lens. What has to be true in a month to keep that 1-year goal alive? Finally, the daily lens. What are 2 or 3 actions can you schedule tomorrow that the professional you're becoming would just naturally do? That was heavy. And hopefully it was useful. But we're not quite done yet. We have one final piece to lock this in. Stay with me. Turn your career into a craft. There's this idea from Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi that the best state of mind, the optimal state, is when there's order in your consciousness. It happens when your attention is focused on realistic goals and your skills match the task at hand. You've got everything you need now to build that kind of meaningful professional life. So open a fresh document. Let's organize your insights into one coherent architecture. I want you to write down 6 elements. Start with your anti-vision. What professional existence are you absolutely refusing to continue? Then define your vision. What life do you genuinely want, knowing full well it will refine as you gain experience? Look ahead to your 1-year goal. What does your professional life look like in 12 months? And does this actually move you toward what you want? Break it down to your 1-month project. What specific capability do you need to develop right now to move that 1-year goal forward? Drill down to your daily levers. What are the priority, needle-moving actions that bring your project closer to completion? And finally, set your constraint. What are you unwilling to sacrifice to build this vision? Your non-negotiable boundaries. Why is this so powerful? Because these components literally create your professional world. If you are meant to pursue this hierarchy of goals right now, you won't be able to help yourself. You'll become obsessed. You'll feel pulled toward something greater. You won't see any other viable alternative. You turn your career into a craft. Think about it. Craft is the ultimate expression of obsession, satisfaction, and flow. It contains everything that produces focus. So if we reverse engineer it, we can hack that deep satisfaction for ourselves. Your vision becomes your masterpiece, at least until the craft evolves. Your anti-vision is what is at stake, the cost of abandoning the work. Your 1-year goal is the major work, your sole professional priority. Your 1-month project is the skill acquisition, how you develop mastery. Your daily levers are the practice, the consistent process that unlocks new possibilities. And your constraints are your medium, the limitations that force creativity. Put together, these function like concentric circles, a force field, if you will. They protect your mind from distractions and shiny objects. The more you practice this craft, the stronger that force field becomes. Eventually, it just becomes who you are. And trust me, once you get there, you wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the Alpha Lodge channel for more content like this. See you next time.